Is Link's Awakening 2019 the prequel to the next 3D Legend of Zelda game? I'm going to go with yes. We're going to be taking kind of a deep dive trying to answer this question. We're going to be referring to the Zelda timeline. This is kind of a tie-in of a few videos I've done that I will kind of get into and do quick recaps on. Real quick, we are doing a giveaway. All you have to do is be subscribed to the channel. Every 10 subscriptions, we give out a Steam code to a random subscriber. Check out the home page for more. Alright, so basically a few weeks ago, I made a video that was the next Zelda will not be in Hyrule. And the idea was that the next 3D Zelda will not be in Hyrule because of the fact, if you just look at Nintendo's release history between the major Zelda games, they tend to kind of skip, or they have a heavily modified version of Hyrule. So we have like Ocarina of Time, Majora's Mask, Wind Waker is also heavily modified. Then we skip to Twilight Princess, which is back in Hyrule. Then we go Skyward Sword, which is like before Hyrule was Hyrule, so heavily modified again. And then we jump back to Breath of the Wild in Hyrule. So they tend to take breaks. They tend to go to Hyrule like every 10 years or so. So yeah, that's kind of like where I'm at with that. I do not think that the next 3D Zelda game will be in Hyrule. So that kind of begs the next question. Why are we remaking The Legend of Zelda Link's Awakening? The game sold okay until you put things into perspective. It sold 6 million units, but it was on like one of the most successful platforms Nintendo's ever had. On top of that, it can be played on the Game Boy, Game Boy Color, Game Boy Advance, Game Boy Advance SP. So like hundreds of millions of systems it can be played on. And it sold 6 million units, which is, compared to those numbers, not that great, in my opinion. So they could have made a new 2D Zelda, or they could have remade a more popular Zelda game, a more talked about Zelda game, a more asked for Zelda game. But they picked a weird one with a weird story that's not in Hyrule. And we'll pretend that they can't do the Capcom games, or it wouldn't be as easy. So, or I guess maybe it's not canon. You know, like I'm not sure the Oracle game. I mean, I know the Oracle games are canon, but I'm not sure if they're something Nintendo would necessarily want to revisit, like those worlds on their own at least. So yeah, they picked a weird Zelda game that didn't sell super well and isn't like heralded as like one of the best Zelda games out there often. So let's take a look at that timeline. There's a pretty huge gap between Link's Awakening and the original Legend of Zelda, just like number of years wise, which kind of makes sense. But yeah, let's just do a quick recap on where we are in the timeline. So it's on the Heroes Defeated track of Ocarina of Time. Hyrule is in kind of decline. And then we go through Link to the Past and the Oracle games. And basically Ganon is defeated. And we have this like golden age that lasts a long time before Ganon is revived in the original Legend of Zelda. Here we have Link's Awakening, which is a game that doesn't involve Ganon. Spoiler alert, the whole thing takes place in a dream. And Link is kind of adrift at sea after a shipwreck. So, one, there is no Ganon, or there will not be Ganon for an entire era of time. So for a very long time, there is no Ganon. This Link is relatively unexplored. Like he's not really facing any threat besides the one in his head. And yeah, I think that kind of speaks for itself. They could have another game as the sequel to, not the sequel to Link's Awakening, but a sequel using the same Link, kind of like Majora's Mask, that takes place at the end of the era of Light and Dark. And that's kind of why Nintendo chose to remake Link's Awakening, because they're going to use it as kind of a prequel. Not like you have to play it, but it's going to carry the same Link across to the next 3D Zelda game. And it makes sense because there's Link's ship could drift him to a new land that is not Hyrule, and the game could end with him going back to Hyrule or whatever, but he doesn't need to end up in Hyrule because we're entering the Golden Era. And it could kind of be end to the Era of Light and Dark, because as it stands, Link's Awakening isn't really an end of the Era of Light and Dark because there was no... It was a dream. So whatever the adventure could be, it could be a wrap-up. There's already no threat of Ganon, so there's a good excuse to not have Ganon, and there's a good excuse for it not to be in Hyrule. And that's kind of like the running theory. Just historically, Nintendo will not have the next 3D game be in Hyrule. And this would be a good way to kind of get everyone set up for this new game that takes place in a new land without Ganon, using the same Link. And that's kind of my theory. Yeah, let me know what you guys think. It's a little out there, but I think it's realistic. I kind of got it when I was just thinking, you know, why are we remaking this one? Yeah, but those are my thoughts. Let me know down in the comments what your thoughts are. Catch you guys next time.